Change Ministries, and today I'm going to go into chapter 3. Now, this is chapter 3 in my Bible, but in most Bibles it is chapter 4. All right, so this chapter begins with Adam knowing his wife and her conceiving and bearing him a son, Cain. I call him Cain in my reconstructed Paleo Hebrew. And his name means possession. And so this is one of my very first changes to the Bible. It's one of my very first, and I've been working on this for years. Because this verse, because it says that then she conceived and bore Cain possession, and she said, I possess a man. He exists. That's my interpretation, because in most interpretations it says, I have gotten a man from the Lord. Okay, it implies that Yahweh gave her that man, but that's actually false, because later on, at the end of my chapter 4, so Cain and Abel, Cain already killed his brother Abel, and then Adam has another son, and then that son, Set or Shet in my Seth or Shet in my interpretation, he has Enos, which I call Anush, and that is mortal. Okay, after Cain and Abel, that whole debacle where Cain killed Abel, they came to realize that there is a distinction between the mortal man and God. Okay, and so that's why he was named mortal, because they grew, developed an awareness that they knew that they had a relationship with someone, but that someone is not like us. We can die. Okay, so their consciousness came to that understanding. And after Anush, mortal, was born, then they called upon the name of the Lord. That's what the Bible says. That's what most interpretations say. Well, if it was then that they called upon the name of He who exists, then why, and that's at the end of my chapter 4, then why the very first said that they had gotten from Yahweh? They never called on his name before. They never, hey, the big guy gave me this kid. No, that's not what it was. Okay, what it actually is he exists. Her son existed, because that was the first son ever born. And so what was in her womb no longer was in the womb, but manifested into existence. What was just an idea or a bump, something unseen, an unwrapped present. You don't know what that present is until, the water breaks and it bursts forth, and there you have it, right? So, again, we're talking about some of the first times that some of these things happened. And so, one day she's big fat and she doesn't know why. Next thing she knows, oh, okay, I just gave birth to, I possess something now. It's mine. And and he exists. All right? Cain existed. This is just one of the examples of where I had to go in and change things. Not that the other couldn't have been accurate, all right? Except for and then they called upon the name of the Lord. After Cain and Abel had already had their situation. We're talking about, years and years, decades later. It didn't make sense to me. And that's why, if something doesn't make sense, then I'm going to do my research and I'm going to dig in and make it make sense. So that's true. Anyway, I guess this is kind of short. That's all I really wanted to talk about. I guess I can talk about Cain and Abel dying of their little fight. So, yes, Cain means possession. He gave, and then after him, that's the firstborn. Then, then Eve, Chachwa, she gave birth to Abel. Now his name means empty. And there's a reason for that. See, because we all have to live up to our name, okay? In one way or another. And he lived an unfulfilled life. It was cut short. He didn't bear fruit, all right? He didn't have children. So his life was empty. And anyway, but why did Cain murder his brother? Well, it was because Cain had offered an offering to God of grain, produce, and Abel offered livestock. And God liked the livestock better than the fruits, all right? So in the grains. So that is why. Now, and so Cain got jealous. Cain got jealous, and God came to him and said, "Hey, if your offering was acceptable, then everything would have been good. But it wasn't." And then he warned him, and he said that sin was lying at the door, but he must rule over that sin. When we recognize traits within ourselves, jealousy, right? We have to, allow our conscience to step up and say, hey, I have to control this emotion. So right there, God was trying to get him to control his emotions before he did something bad. But Cain was unable to control his emotions, and he ended up killing his brother. All right. So we had the first jealousy and the first murder because of the loss of control of emotions. All right. Well, my name is Wendy, and we're all living in the winds of change.